I can't have a family and have all this and then look at my partner and say, hey, by the way, I kind of want to take a stab at this brewing thing and then go and work for minimum wage somewhere. And it probably wasn't going to happen, even though at that point in the future, I might really want it to. It just wasn't something that I thought was going to be responsible or feasible. So I said, hey, let me just do it now.
Where should I start? Because you gave me a care package of all this incredible beer. I'm so excited to try one and I want to drink one while we're doing the show. So which one should I start out?
All right. Well, I'm excited to have you excited about it. They're all brand new. And they might look like old beers, but it's new packaging. So one of the things that I think everybody, what's a good takeaway from these things is like whenever you're drinking beer, especially if you're going to do it like in a tasting setting, you want to build like a flight, right? You want to make sure that you don't wreck your palate in the very beginning. I did give you some heavy hitters. So we'll start with the Aloha Sculpin. And I'm going to start with the Aloha Sculpin too.
Okay.
Boom.
There we go.
Wait, hold on. Can you listen to this?
Ooh. That was gorgeous.
Professional, Whitney.
Okay, I love it. And should I pour it into my tasting glass too?
Absolutely, because this one is a hazy version of our Sculpin. And so you want to see how hazy it is.
All right.
It's probably one of the coolest beers that we make. And I'll get into why I think that, but Sculpin's been around forever. It's not forever, but it is a beer that has really built Ballast Point up. It's our most popular beer. So popular that we've brewed and branded a few different iterations of it. So there's the OG Sculpin. There's this version of Sculpin, which is the hazy. There's pineapple Sculpin. There's grapefruit Sculpin. There's, tahini Sculpin. There's like, we've done everything to Sculpin that you could possibly imagine. And this one I'm really proud of because of the way that we brewed it.
Okay. And I've told you, I have tried Aloha before and I can't remember where I tried it. I mean, it was during summer and I was like, this is like my new Sculpin. And I love Sculpin.
It's dope, right?
It's the best. It's like that true, like kind of like that IP, like what you would envision an IPA to taste like, that is Sculpin to me. And maybe it's because that's what any IPA I drink, I was drinking Sculpin being from San Diego, but this is really, really nice, really well balanced.
Well, this one's not as bitter. So because we made it a hazy, we kind of took everything that you already love from Sculpin, like the citrus component, the fruity aroma, the big body. It's a 7%, so it still takes you where you want to go. But that bitterness that everybody really, really, really loves about Sculpin, even though there's a lot of people that really like that astringent bitterness, that harsh bite. When you make something hazy like this, it really starts to tone down the bitterness. So it's a little bit more, it's softer and it's a little bit more well-rounded. So for all of your friends out there that say, oh, I don't drink Sculpin, it's too bitter for me, give them a little Aloha and take them on a little vacation. And it's a lot more, it's less aggressive on the bitterness component.
Sure. Absolutely. So Jeff, let's talk about your story.
Let's do it.
How did you get involved in beer? How did you come to Ballast Point? Like, give us a background on you and kind of your backstory.
So I grew up in a very small town, a very hot town, and literally not like hot, booming hot, like 120-degree weather, Calexico, California, which is here in California. It's south. It's east of San Diego, but it's on the southern tip of California, and it's in the Imperial Valley. So I just grew up in a small town, and like most people in my town, to get to the big city, to get out of that small town, we hit the closest big city we got, right? So it's San Diego. So I came to San Diego to study nursing, actually. So I was in nursing. Yeah. So I wanted to be a nurse, and it was a decision that I made pretty young. And so, at that stage, you're still kind of trying to figure out what it's all about, what you're all about. And there's this tug and pull for security, right? So not only did I think that it was a secure job, I thought I would be relatively good at it. And as I was studying, I did become really interested in it. And quite honestly, I didn't leave nursing because I didn't like it. It was a little bit more strategical than that. So I came up to study. I was working a couple of restaurant gigs to put me through school, not to put me through school, but like just to have a job and pay some rent and stuff.
Sure.
So I was working at a restaurant here in San Diego, and they happened to have craft beer. Now we were offering Ballast Point at this time at that restaurant, but I didn't give a shit. I didn't really care about craft beer at all.
Sure.
I knew Bud Lights and I knew Modelos and I knew big beer, which is appropriately deemed big beer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was nothing wrong with it. And it wasn't until everybody here kind of started getting caught in the whirlpool of craft and local and that whole push for supporting, local
And
business.
what like year was that? Like, give me like a time frame. Cause I kind of remember like, again, seeing it, but I wasn't super into it.
So it was like around 2008.
Okay.
Like 2008, 2009, around there. And then, so I came up to study and like I said, I was working at the restaurant, and then I really kind of started getting into craft beer. I was talking to people that were really liking it. I got really infatuated with Arrogant Bastard from Stone.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, the beer was like so aggressive to me, and I didn't like it, but it was Arrogant Bastard, right? It had a cool name.
Yeah.
It was super punk rock.
It was like manly. It was like very masculine.
It was gritty. And the label said that you couldn't handle it. And so all the things that would get some knucklehead to say, oh, I'll try it. You watch, I'll like it. Same thing. It was a sort of magnetism. And just like coffee, just like CBD infused coffee or anything like that. You get your palate acclimates, right? Like it starts to kind of like pick up on some of these flavor components that you inevitably end up liking. So the same thing happened with craft beer for me. And then I started really getting more knowledgeable about breweries, and honestly it was a selling point. I was just trying to make a more of a tip at the restaurant. But over the course of time, as my schooling was coming to an end and I graduated, and I worked in nursing as a profession for a very small amount of time. And then I had always had this like little thing tugging at the back of my psyche, which is craft beer and everything that I thought a craft brewery was going to be, and all of these delusions of grandeur, like, oh man, that's must be fun to just drink beer all day and free beer. And, like, I don't know if you've ever seen that Simpsons episode where the Duff Factory and everyone's having it's like this big party, right? It's not like that at all, but I kind of thought it was. And so I had to make a decision at that kind of like fork in the road that I created for myself, which is, I kind of knew what my financial life was going to be like entering the nursing world, the medical world. Mm-hmm. I wasn't married. I had no kids. I still had roommates. And so it wasn't a lot to lose to like take a leap of faith into some sort of, let's call it a passion, even though it really wasn't a passion. I was just really interested in it. And so I said, okay, well, look, I'm going to reach a point in my life where I'm going to have a certain level of comfort, and this salary is going to afford me, particular things, right? A house, a car. I'm going to start a family. I always wanted a family and stuff. And so it was kind of one of these decisions where I can't have a family and have all this and then look at my partner and say, hey, by the way, I kind of want to take a stab at this brewing thing and then go and work for minimum wage somewhere. And it probably wasn't going to happen, even though at that point in the future, I might really want it to. It just wasn't something that I thought was going to be responsible or feasible. So I said, hey, let me just do it now. Yeah. And so I applied to every damn brewer that you can potentially. I was willing to relocate. So I applied to everyone. I applied to every brewery in San Diego. I applied to every brewery in California. And at the time, I mean, there weren't so many out of state. I just really wanted to work at a brewery. And honestly, Ballast Point wasn't even my first shot. I really wanted to work for Stone. And then I really wanted to work for Rogue because I thought they were pretty punk rock. So I was like, okay, I like their vibe. I like their grit. I like their no apologies kind of marketing. And then I just kind of started liking Ballast Point beer. And so I said, fishing's not really my thing. And it's not really like it wasn't the marketing that got me to work for Ballast Point. That's for sure. And sure enough, I went in and I went onto their website and I emailed everybody that had a website posted on their on their page. And it was a smaller brewery at the time. So I ended up emailing the president of the company, and he ended up getting back to me and he goes, hey, listen, thanks for your interest. We do have a position available if you want it. I said, sure, I'll take it. He didn't even tell me what it was. I said, I'll take it. Said, yeah, let's do it. And it ended up being a weekend graveyard shift facilities coordinator. That's how it was phrased, but it was a janitor. So that's really what it is. And honestly, I've done a lot for Ballast Point now. I mean, I've done a lot of different jobs, and I gotta say that being a janitor at Ballast Point in 2012, graveyard shift during the weekends was probably some of my funnest, most memorable times.